churches around the world where they actually plan to have the songs and the message and the affirmations and everything match. I don't know why they bother. God does a much better job. And so thank you so much for writing that song specifically for me and this talk. I know you didn't know you were doing that, but that's okay. That sense of, wow, it's really dry. That sense of what I need is not here, and I need it to survive. Has anyone ever felt that? No, not at all, right? That sense of, I have been calling on truth, I have been calling in this good for however many millennia it feels like, and it still hasn't shown up, is what causes a sense of despair, is what can cause a sense of hopelessness. But what we know is the truth of who we are is so powerful that if we stand in our truth and claim the blessings of rain pouring down over us, there is nothing on earth or anywhere else that can stop that rain. Do you guys know that about yourselves, that you have that power in you? That if you claim that truth and refuse to be budged by all the evidence to the contrary, you can look at it and just laugh it off. You're not afraid to look at it because you are so steeped in truth that it doesn't matter how long it takes. You know that that claiming of good, what some people call prayer, must be answered with a yes. Or something even better than the way you had planned it. They say the planting of a tree is an act of faith in the future. If I plant a tree now, I very much doubt I will get to sit under it when it's 100 years old. You never know, but I'd just as soon not have to work for that much retirement fund. So what I'm asking you to consider today is, what is that truth you've been claiming, that your heart's been claiming, that might feel too big or too good or too awesome for you to claim, and yet there's something in you that just keeps coming back to, oh, wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be great if? I so wish. One of the things I notice in many classes is that when I ask people to describe their perfect life, I get teensy little wishes. I wish I made $17 an hour. Or, my perfect life includes only working 6 days a week. Eensy-beensy wishes that I have learned that if I really want somebody to dream big, I have to either hand them the magic wand that I do have in my office for just such occasions. If they still argue with me, I make them wear the Glinda the Good Witch dress. The guys love that. Or I ask them to create a life for a child they love. Think of your grandchildren. In my cases, it's nieces and nephews. Nephew. As far as I know, there's only one. I don't have any children that I'm aware of, so I'm just going to put that out there. If you will wish it that good for someone else, in order for it to happen, you must be willing to accept it for yourself. The good we seek for ourselves is what we desire for all people everywhere. If we're not willing to be loved beyond our greatest imagination, then what that does is cut it off for the people that we love, because we haven't modeled how to accept that much good. How much good can you stand to have in this lifetime? How much good are you willing to have? And I know many of you are thinking, oh no, I have a great big idea of good. Okay, go buy a lottery ticket. I'm not kidding. If you're really that solid and that's settled in your faith that all good comes to you, then go buy a lottery ticket and come talk to me about your will and tithing. As a matter of fact, 5 or 6 of you go do that. I'm more than happy to have multiple people rolling in it these days. If you really believe that you're willing to have amazing good, look at your spouse and imagine you're back to the beginning and falling in love all over again, but you also have the benefit of the long-term love. If you're willing to accept all good, stop aging. Who says we have to? I don't even intend to grow up, much less age. This month, our book, though you might not have known it, because I haven't really referred to it much, is The Sun Does Shine by Laura Love Hardin. It's the story of Anthony Ray Hinton. Does anyone know who that is? He is the man who has the dubious honor of holding the record for being one of the longest-serving condemned prisoners facing execution in America to be proven innocent and released. 30 years. When he was convicted, the evidence showed that he was working in a lockdown facility 15 miles away from the scene of the murder. At the time of the murder. The .38 pistol they found was at his mother's house, and it hadn't been shot in years. He passed a polygraph, which they decided was not good because some people can fake it through a polygraph. And when new evidence was uncovered that exonerated him, he had to serve another 8 years because they wouldn't give him a new trial. This man spoke his truth for 30 years. He claimed the divine truth of freedom for himself for 30 years. He could prove it, and he had legal recourse for 8 years. And do you know that the divine spirit had to change the entire administration of the legal system in order to get him free? He had to be willing to hold to his truth in spite of being told this will not work. Now, I've worked for the public defender. You always plead a felony count not guilty at the arraignment because otherwise that's just bad lawyering. Everybody who's charged with a felony gets pled not guilty at arraignment. It's just how it's done because you need some time to look into it. But even with that, one of the things I know about this country today is that people are really kind of pressured, practically strong-armed into pleading guilty because we don't have the money for the lawyers, we don't have the money for the courts, it's less expensive if somebody pleads guilty early. And so they will actually tell people, if you go to trial and lose, they're going to ding you for this, for not pleading guilty at the beginning. And so in the face of all of that, all of the pressure, all of what must have been some tremendous fear, he spoke his truth. I am a free man and I am free from guilt. I am free. And though it took 30 years and changing an entire administration of a jail and the state of Alabama, his word bore fruit. Because it has to. There is no other option. The divine and one person is a majority. And so if we declare the truth of reign, if we declare the truth of freedom, if we declare the truth of our absolute connection to ultimate good, beyond, like, redonkulous good, beyond anything that's even fair or adult or makes any sense whatsoever. If we stand in our truth, that thing that our heart is whispering, but this is the truth of me, then we will see it made manifest. We absolutely see it made manifest. There are no other options. When Reverend Dr. John Waterhouse was out here and did the practitioners retreat, one of the things he taught us is don't pray for good, pray good. Don't pray for rain, pray rain. Don't pray for health, pray health. And one of the exercises he had us do that I would offer to you is think about the best part of your life right now. What is just going along like it's like skipping and hopping down the gold roads? What is really working for you? Treat on that. Do a spiritual mind treatment practicing that, because what you're doing really in a treatment is bearing witness to truth. We don't have to ignore the circumstances around us, but we do have to look beyond them and recognize that those are little f facts and they are not here to stay. Even the guards knew that, sorry, I can't think of his name now, Anthony was special and different because he was so into the truth of who he really was, he didn't have time to act like a convict or to speak to people from a place of resentment. Now, I don't know about you, but I start questioning things when I've had a cold for more than a week. And so what it takes to hold to your truth for 30 years is not so, that's where our willpower comes in. We don't effort things into being. Our willpower is best used to simply stare down the truth and refuse to be shaken. Even Nelson Mandela was released after 27 years, and he became the president of his country. He held to the truth so completely. He refused to believe in apartheid. He refused to believe the thing that said he was less than human in the face of an entire country's worth of evidence that everybody believed differently. He held to the idea that he was a person of worth, that he was, as we would say, a divine being. This morning as I got up, I was thinking about Viktor Frankl, a gentleman who survived Auschwitz and wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Another book, the sequel was Man's Search for Ultimate Meaning, and he gets more into spirituality in that. It's a hard read, because what he does is take Auschwitz, a place where his entire family, the love of his life, died, and he turns it into his own petri dish and says, at last, when everything else has been taken from me, and the last thing to go was his wedding ring, when everything else has been taken from me, I still have choice. And that cannot be taken from me. I still have the choice to act like a divine being, although he wouldn't have used those words, to act like a divine being, or to act like the victim they want me to be. To act like one who has eternal life, who is absolutely safe within the divine, or the one that we can exterminate and get rid of. For years he did this, and he ended up, he had his book, which back then they had to write out longhand, and there was no spell check. He had it sewn into the coat they took from him when he arrived at the camp, and they burned it. I completely lost it when my boyfriend's roommate unplugged the computer before I hit save, and that was an 8-page paper. I could recreate that thing in a heartbeat. If I had written out an entire book longhand, you better pray. Because we're gonna have a come to Kali meeting. Never mind come to Jesus. Jesus is nicer. Anne Frank. We know her for the hopefulness and the love that was written into her diary. Now, granted, this is an edited diary and we all know it. This poor kid was going through puberty up in that attic. But what mattered were the words that said, in spite of it all, I still believe people are essentially good. And she wrote that before they got caught and she was sent to die. Now, we have these great examples of hold on to your truth. We have these great examples of good things being pulled, kicking and screaming out of rotten situations. It's somewhat disheartening to know that 2/3 of millennials don't know what Auschwitz was. And a good third of them are not sure they know what the Holocaust was. So yes, sometimes it's hard to look at those things. It looks like an awful thing. But the point of both of those issues, but the point of Auschwitz today is to come together and see that we can survive anything and that we are better than that. We are better than that. There's a divine being within us that is all about freedom and love and truth, and that is way beyond what those of us who live in fear and are living from fear will try to do and try and tell us we are. And so in this moment, I want you to think about, is it possible? Is it possible there's some part of you living in a prison of your own making, and there's another part of you saying, hey, I don't belong in here. I don't belong sick. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like the truth of me that I should be living paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't feel right that other people don't get how awesome I am, and I am not surrounded by loving friends. It doesn't feel right that I cannot look in the mirror and speak love. Somehow that just feels off. You know what that is? That's the voice of God speaking within you and telling your truth. And it is going to keep telling your truth until you acknowledge it. So you can fight it all you want. But at some point, you're going to look in the mirror and see the face of God. At some point, you're going to wake up to the truth that has always been there about you. This week, I went and got my eyes checked and found out, yes, it is odd that you can't read a stop sign anymore. But when you see properly, when you see the world as it really is, when you see truth, all of a sudden I have all these beautiful faces. I can actually tell you apart now. There is power in truth that cannot be stopped. Now, I don't have to keep stopping and reminding myself that I can now see clearly and I can now focus my eyes in a different way. Because I have had the truth manifested for me in clear vision, I don't have to argue with it anymore. It's the same thing with settling your faith as to the divinity in yourself and everyone around you. In those cows, in the rain clouds, even in Auschwitz. In the past couple of weeks, a group of Jewish and a group of Muslim women came together there to declare it a place of love and forgiveness and healing. Even there, the truth must make itself manifest and seen. What makes you think you're going to stand against this power that absolutely loves and adores you and knows itself as you and refuses to know anything except its own perfection? The only choice you truly have, and you are living in this choice right now, is when you're going to accept the magnificence of your soul and the souls of the people around you. That is the choice. It's a whole bunch of little choices within it. The choice to speak truth even when everybody else is arguing with you. The choice to live in freedom. The choice to live from good, even if the rest of the world says it's not possible. Now, we all giggled when I said, go buy a lottery ticket. Why not? Why not? Why not become the center for the six-state area known as Region 6 here amongst the CSLs? Why not have this center be the place everybody comes to learn? Why not have this be the place where everybody is working to earn the t-shirt that says, I'm a volunteer with CSL Prescott? And that's a high honor. Why not be the place that is no longer a well-kept secret, but is the place everybody looks to and in this town and in the Quad City area and says, oh yeah, that's who you go to if you're on your last legs. That's where you go if you need to be cured of cancer or MS or poverty or being alone or depression. That is where you go and you will have a healing. And everybody in town knows it. And everybody in here knows it so completely that it is the truth demonstrated. Why not? Ernest Holmes says that, something I can't see. The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. The divine plan, God's plan, the one that you may as well not bother arguing with, is one of freedom. Freedom from all discord. Freedom from all lies, the things that we thought were the truth about us. The divine plan is one of freedom. And because we have tools that help us focus on that truth, and one of them is prayer, we're going to prayer now. Now, I know I say this every week, but for those of you who don't know me, I pray from here so that we all have kind of a visceral understanding that we're all one and we are all equal. We have different ways of being in the world, but we are on a level praying field. And so I ask you, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, that's great, but join me now in consciousness. Go to that place within you where the truth has always been spoken, where you know and you know that you know. We come together in the name of love. We come together in the name of freedom. Love and freedom are two of our words for the divine being or God or spirit that works according to a law of cause and effect. And as we stand witness collectively to the truth of divine being, we remember that God is good. So good that some of us use the word good in place of God. That the divine being, the divine life is one of freedom and expansion and joy and power and peace. And because we are part of that, it must logically be the truth of who we really are. There is a divine being living within every single set of skin in this place and everywhere. In concentration camps, in freedom, in the history of our people, and in our future. In all places at all times, there is divine being that has taken form as everything we can see and smell and touch and know at the physical level. And so I stand witness to that truth, knowing I don't have to do anything except keep my eyes and my heart in that truth. And I know that each and every one of us has that speaking clearly within us right now. And I claim the ability and the will to listen, to make the choice to hear truth rather than evidence to the contrary, to claim rain, that blessings rain down on us in every form. I know this is the truth of our being. There is nothing else to be, and so I bless it, accept it, and call it good, and so it is.